Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I'm James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We're, of course, a Blue Wire podcast. Joining me today, KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing great. I like that little wind up that you had there. You extended my name. It's only 4 letters.
Sean
My name should be 4-letter name.
Cunningham.
Yeah.
There we go.
But, I'm doing great. Thanks to had a great time at Aftershock. A lot of people watching. Thanks to James's plug being able to make that happen.
My friends at Odyssey. Yep.
Yeah. And I ran into a lot of Kings Beat listeners. How about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. I didn't expect to, but we did.
But they all came up and said hello?
Yeah, I've had several people say hello, took a picture with a couple of people. One of them who knows our friend, Tasteful Nudes. One of them who knows our mutual, I'm not going to call him a friend. He's more of an acquaintance, Jeremiah Salmonson.
Jeremiah catching strays.
Big golf
catching
guy.
strays.
Yeah.
Big golf guy.
So it
was a foul ball, but big golf guy.
I got to report back because Blink 182 was sensational. I hadn't seen them since I don't remember if it was like 2000 or 2001. It was a long time ago. They had opened for like No Doubt, and that was a really fun show. It was a warm show. It was a hot show. But they're at their peak of their powers. So I really had a great time. And Brenden should have been there. Could have gone there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you say they're currently at their peak of their powers?
I think so. But you know what? I just realized that James didn't welcome in Brenden because I rambled too much.
Because you just
James, can you welcome in our friend and wherever the hell he works?
Yeah, we are of course joined by Brenden Nunes on the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
Yeah. Hello. I am doing well. Nothing special to report over here. Well,
nope, never is.
Nope. Great work at the Kings Pulse podcast, and that's what I spend all my time doing. So,
Kings
we are here.
Pulse podcasting.
Yes, sir.
Can we talk about this, Brenden, real quickly? Because I still just don't understand why you zigged when you should have zagged to go see Blink 182.
I can't name you 3 songs right now, Sean, and that's really the premise of all of this. That's as deep as it goes, I'm sure as some played, I would recognize them, right? But my concert enjoyment is more about being there and screaming my head off, singing along.
Do you have to sing along? You want to sing along and ruin everyone's videos? Okay.
100%. That's why I never post my own videos, because I listen to them back and I'm like, man, I should have shut up.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
So what did you do instead?
I recorded a podcast and hung out and played video games, Sean. It's day in the life. I had a great time.
Wow.
I did sit there at lunch with Sean and probably changed my mind about 6 times throughout the course of 30 minutes on whether or not
James,
I was going to
go. It was an adventure in watching someone really go through a terrible, like a tough decision in their day. Like he 1 minute he was in, the next minute he was like out and pulling his hair out. Like, I don't know what you were doing. Like he did this like 3 or 4 different times. It was crazy. And then he phoned a friend. He phoned a friend to like either talk
to see it was okay if he went out.
For a third opinion, Sean. That's not what was going on there. I initially felt like probably not, and felt like, hey, am I gonna miss out? If I don't do this, am I going to regret this? And I don't feel like any regret right now, to be honest, Sean. So I'm chilling.
Well, all right. Well, we'll get to the bottom of that. Sean, you did go see Oasis earlier this summer, and now it looks like they're having problems again, right?
Are they? Did I miss something?
I think there's a health problem or something. I think they've put stuff on hold again.
It was kind of funny because I did talk to a friend of mine who I was saying, if you were to tell me that Oasis or Blink 182, one of them is going to break up again, and who will do it first, my money, as I think our gardener is here, my money would be on Blink 182 breaking up first.
All right.
Shout out to your gardener.
Sean's got like rich people problems over there.
Oh, okay. Ham Navy with the 4 yachts. What's going on over there?
We don't have an outdoor person here. I don't have someone who I make the boys go out and weed eat and stuff.
That's created gardeners.
Good parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome into the King's Beat podcast. For all
are.
of you that are starting here, we decided to do a live show like impromptu, like we always do. We're sort of erratic with this, so hopefully we get some people in here, we get some comments, questions, all that stuff. I'm not seeing anything show up yet, which is unusual because our listeners are usually very vocal here in the chat. I don't know. Are you guys seeing anything in the chat, or can you? Oh no, you can see the chat. Yeah.
I don't see anything.
No comments right now. I checked on the YouTube side. We're all good. You know, I after last night's game, I thought people would be vocal, but probably slowly filtering in, you know.
Okay,
by the way, there were a lot of vocal people all over the place last night. Can you hear that lawnmower going?
No. You should keep mentioning it. Oh, you're gonna turn the mic towards the lawnmower, huh?
No, do you guys hear my ice maker? My ice maker kicked on.
No, my computer's buzzing a little bit down there. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Sorry. All right. So we have Stephen Brown, who called us a sexy trio. He's here in the chat.
Well, he's not.
Ibrahim, justified in being called erratic because you're forced to cover an erratic team. Okay. HP, hello. Welcome in. We're going to hang out here probably 45 minutes to an hour and do our standard crazy wild podcast where we meander through what's happening with Sacramento Kings. You guys have podcast candles?
You know, it's right here. I haven't lit it. It is here. Oh, it smells pretty good, but it got really warm in here, so I figured I'm going to leave this off. But while we're doing all that, can I ask you gentlemen a question that's not Kings related? Actually, yeah, it's not Kings related.
No, I don't want to hear it.
I'm here for your erratic question.
What do you all think of? What is like the appropriate amount of people to have on a group chat?
Oh no.
Oh God.
My answer is 0. I am the biggest anti-group chat person of all time. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because I wear an Apple Watch. And an Apple Watch, every time you get a text, buzzes. So when you're on a group chat with, I don't even know how many people and who decided to add my phone number to a group chat. I don't know. A bunch of people I don't know are in this group chat. Now a bunch of people have my phone number my wrist has been buzzing all afternoon long.
Yeah, well, so, okay, you could mute it.
Jake Aiden
we don't have to explain.
One day apart. No, I'm going to. What do you mean we don't have to? You started this.
I'm just saying it was just a simple question. How about now?
Jake
Can you hear
Aiden
it now?
And I have
I hear him.
Jake Aiden and I have a birthday one day apart, and we are trying to plan something this weekend. So Jake sent out a big group chat, and Sean, I happened to be in the parking lot with Sean when we got this text. He was very unhappy that this happened. Renamed it to unnecessary group chat, and yeah.
I wasn't unhappy. It was more of like, oh, really? We've got 25 people on a group chat. Like that's far too many. Also, James, let me help you out. You can mute the group chat. You can go back and look at it at your leisure.
Well, yeah, but I'm a busy man. I don't have time to go in and mute group chats when they pop up. Like, anyway, I
had
one
to ask
barb in the group chat and then I ducked out. Yeah.
Okay.
California citron. Is this how we citrus?
Citron. Yeah.
Citron. See, I knew that. That's the candle scent going on today.
All right. Well, let's dive into this this not a great basketball game that we sat and watched together last night. The Sacramento Kings lost to the Toronto Raptors 130-122 to open their preseason schedule. It wasn't that close. To be honest with you, the second, third teamers came in and I thought did a wonderful job of making the game look competitive at the end. I thought they played extremely well. We got to see great minutes out of Reynaud, and Dylan Cardwell played really well, and Nick Clifford ends up with 9 assists, and they looked really good. But the guys who started the game, the guys who came in and played with the second unit, did not look good at all. And I thought the fan reaction was pretty crazy for the first preseason game. And I don't want to make excuses for this team at all, but I would say this. When you haven't played a preseason game and you go into a game where the team that you're playing has played a preseason game already, sometimes they look slightly more prepared because they've actually gone up against a real opponent, not themselves. And so it's oftentimes that you see teams that have had a preseason game under their belt play a team that hasn't, and the team that hasn't had a preseason game looks like ass. And to be honest, that was not a good performance by the Sacramento Kings. And let's just kind of start there. What were your guys' like biggest initial like uh-oh moment from that game?
Probably with 94 feet defensively, picking up full court being the main emphasis. It felt like going in throughout all of training camp coming into the year, it didn't feel like it was happening that often for how much Doug was saying that is going to be the identity of this team. In postgame, Doug said the starting group specifically did it 30% of the possessions, and their goal is more 85%. I actually thought Zach LaVine looked pretty solid defensively early on in the game, at least like good effort from him in that aspect, forcing some steals, getting in lanes and things like that. But for the most part, that physicality, the make them feel us that Doug is emphasizing in one of their 3 defensive staples, I just didn't really feel like was there very much from the jump. After some free throws, you would see Dennis be able to get into that a little bit more, and some of the other guys. There were moments for sure, but to me, it just felt like that was maybe going to be one of the biggest differences coming into this year, this full court defense. And it just wasn't very much on display, I would say. And in the moments it was, if you're picking up 94 feet, that kind of leaves the opportunity for you to get blown by at 85 feet. And then now you have a whole long way to recover. And I think we saw some of that going on. So working through the kinks of the 94 feet and also just doing it more consistently.
I liked the way Dennis Schroeder, at least, in talking about the picking up 94 feet, he kept Emmanuel quickly away from the basketball a lot, and kept the ball out of his hands. Like, look, don't get me wrong, I thought Dennis Schroeder didn't play a very good basketball game, but he wasn't the only one out there. But in terms of the picking up 94 feet, it's not going to be a collective group that's doing that, but he's going to be the guy that will be doing that more times than not. And I felt his presence shifting towards Emmanuel quickly kept the ball out of his hands quite often. And I thought that was effective, if I'm giving it any sort of encouragement. But I think Doug Christie nailed it. He mentioned that his team lost both the game and the fight. He's 100% right. To me, it just looked like a bunch of guys didn't really want to play basketball that night. To accomplish what Doug is trying to set out to do and implement some of the things that he wants to do, you have to have a total buy-in. You have to have a collective group that wants to do it. And I don't think this group was all that interested in showing that in the preseason. I couldn't really chalk it up to one reason or another. I would say, look, I know there's a lot being made over how well that summer league team played in the fourth quarter. They're going up against a bunch of guys that aren't making an NBA roster. So please bear that in mind when people are, slurping any effort that somebody did out there on the court, because again, you can go 100% one way positive, you can go 100%. The reality is it really doesn't matter. So the things you can control are effort. And I think some of the things they're trying to implement, they're trying to change habits, and a lot of bad habits at that, and try to do it as a collective. I didn't expect to see it right away in the first game. Preseason can be a very sloppy existence. But I also just think, if you're not going to guard the perimeter against a team that Doug put in their mind that, hey, this team didn't hit threes, and guess what? They hit a bunch of threes. So when you go down 25 in a preseason contest, I think that just shows that your give a damn and your effort isn't really there. I don't think they took the opponent very seriously, but I don't think they took the game very seriously either. And I think there were some good things. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like I'm being very negative, but I just didn't really see a lot of it from some of those new faces, or some of those starters, I should say, especially with Dennis being in there. I think he did show you something, which is he's going to be very much a distributor. I know a lot of people were confused as to why he didn't take a lot of shots. If you've never seen Dennis Schroeder play, that's kind of his game. I mean, he typically is with a bunch of people that'll take shots over him, but if you need to break that glass and he needs to step up and do so, hopefully he can get in the paint or make a bucket or two. But he's a table setter, he's a connector, and so I was hoping to see some of that elite defense. He didn't really have to show that off, so that might have been disappointing for some folks who've heard a lot coming from this training camp. But doing it in the first preseason game, you're saying what you want from your team going forward. It doesn't mean you're going to see it in the first preseason game.
Okay, so there's a couple of things here. First of all, Brenden, like you pointed to what Doug said, like he wanted 85% of the 94 feet pickup thing, right? And he got 30%. That's not acceptable. Secondly, like,
do we think it was even that much?
No,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think the other problem too that I had is that you're the team that is telling everybody that's what you want to do, and then you face a team who actually did it. Like, I thought Toronto, not only did they pick up 94 feet, but they showed you like the pathway forward with picking up 94 feet. They had 3 guys engaged, 2 guys engaged, picking up the ball and limiting what the Kings could do offensively. And I thought Toronto did an excellent job of their press versus what I saw from the Kings, which was, hey, Dennis, go chase that guy. No, keep chasing. Chase that guy over there. No, the other guy. No, he passed it. Now chase that guy. It was like this ridiculousness that they've got to tighten up. They've got to figure out what it is, what their plan is on that. It can't be one guy picking up 94 feet, and that's how you're playing. I do think they caused the Raptors to make some mistakes because of it, but at the same time, that was not an effective basketball game at all. And like I talked to someone before the game. I talked to one of the assistants before the game, and I'm not going to say who, but they said, hey, like, look, there's a bunch of things that we have to reteach here. Like we have to unlearn a whole bunch of things from the last couple of seasons and reteach what we want done. And so that process in itself is going to take some time. And so, like, even before this happened, before the game, I talked to somebody. He said, don't be surprised if this thing looks funky right off the bat. He's like, do not be surprised. He said, because they were tilting the floor last year. That's what the defense was. They kept hedging towards the strong side. So that means if the team you're playing against has 3 guys on one side of the court and 2 on the other, the Kings were tilting their defense towards the 3 guys and allowing more like off-ball stuff in the corner to happen. And that's not how the Kings want to play. They don't want to have a team be able to just switch the side to the court and get wide open looks from 3 on the other side. Now, you could say, well, that's exactly what we watched. Like the team that they played, the Raptors just lit them up from 3. I mean, it was embarrassing. You got outscored 60-30 from behind the arc. That's embarrassing. But the Kings, half the team is doing what they're used to doing, and half the team wasn't. And that's why it felt disjointed on the defensive end. At least that's what it looked like to me. And so they're going to have to keep doing this again and again and again in practice to sort of, build the reps in order to like make it sort of clockwork in their head. And as of right now, they're doing a mixture of some Mike Brown stuff and some Doug Christie stuff, and it's going to look wonky until they figure it out. So I do think that there were some positives on the defensive end, but I'm almost wondering if some of the positives that we saw last night, like the 11 block shots by the Sacramento Kings, weren't like that's not sustainable. Well, first of all, I know that's not sustainable, but secondly, it was almost like a symptom to the problem that they were having on the floor. They were getting weak side shot blocks, which are not typical from this team, but it also showed you why there's someone wide open on the other side shooting a 3. And it's because the Kings were slow to rotate, and they were closing off the key more than they were defending the 3, and it just got kind of weird. So I don't know. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the rotation part for sure, like, again, you're picking up that far up and it's not every single person, but the guy that is picking up there needs some backline help as well. And I think that then you get caught in rotations. And I also thought pretty quickly, the guys look kind of tired. They've been working really hard throughout training camp for sure. And, Doug has talked about how this is going to be a taxing style of play on both ends of the floor. They're also trying to play fast offensively. So I think all of that definitely factored in. And there's also, the reality of this is they're trying to muck up the game, but they have the 22nd ranked defense last year, and Dennis Schroeder is the main addition there. Like, I don't know that they have the personnel to be this amazing defensive team no matter what. I mean, they don't have the personnel to be an amazing defensive team. Like, they're chasing average, they're not going to say that, but I feel like that's sort of the ceiling that we're talking about. And so I just think there's also the reality of you don't have great defenders. Toronto was going at Domantas Sabonis a lot last night, and they tried to show him. They tried to have him in a drop. Brandon Ingram is attacking that guy, and Brandon Ingram was freaking on fire early in that game for what it's worth. And when a guy that he's listed 6'8", I swear he's taller than that. The high release, he's hitting leaners, tough shots. Like, it was a bad combination, but there is also the reality of they don't have great defensive personnel.
Well, that and to that point, Brendan, sorry, Jesus. One of the problems that you have is that Domantas Sabonis should never be defending Brandon Ingram. Like, you should not be switching everything every single play, because to me it felt like Toronto just hunted the mismatch with Brandon Ingram. That's what they did the whole first half, and the Kings just kept playing right into it. And so at a certain point, you do have to mix it up. You've got to try something different. But again, it's a work in progress. They're trying to put a brand new defensive scheme in on the fly, and they had 7 days to do it. And on top of 7, not only did they have 7 days to put in the defense, but also in offense. Oh, and also, by the way, we have to get you in peak physical condition, and we need you shooting the basketball. Like, all of these things are part of the training camp / preseason process. So I'm kind of like a never too high, never too low guy here. I agree. Well, yeah, I try to stay at least a little bit, like, when it comes
especially during the preseason.
Yeah, when you're watching it play, I like to try to keep kind of an open mind and say, okay, what do they do well? What they do well, is that sustainable, or is that unsustainable? And is being this bad defensively, is that really who they are? Is that sustainable, that they're just going to be that bad all season long defensively? And I think the answer could be yes, but I also think that they were slow to rotate. They were, again, they don't have switchable players. That's a problem. But I also feel like they played right into the hands of a team that just looked like they were a little bit more together, again, in their second preseason game.
And when you're implementing these, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I think that's fair. And I think, if anyone didn't hear the comments of Malik Monk today, I would say listen to those, because keeps it pretty much in proper perspective. He says they're a long way from game form, and he's not wrong. I mean, this notion that training camp ends before your first preseason game is not true. I mean, that it continues on until the first game of the season, and they're working on a lot of different things. So look, I don't think this is totally going to be the team that people will expect. I still don't think they're going to be this great basketball team, but certainly the stuff that they can control should be much, much better. And that's just a broad expectation that fans, media, themselves, the organization will have. I mean, there was a lot of furrowed brows, and just some faces that looked like they just sucked on a lemon. There were some people who just didn't like what they were seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're implementing these new things as well, like, you've done nothing throughout training camp but beat up on each other, right? That's a lot of the first unit going against the second unit. And so they're practicing their full court press against lesser competition than what they may going into these games. And that's why I think Doug said it's important to go against somebody that doesn't like you a little bit and is trying to beat you down here. So when you're implementing these new things, like getting the reps on film and honestly seeing it not working, in my mind, can be beneficial as long as you actually, comb through all that and figure out what needs to be fixed as a collective group. And so I just, as much as, like you mentioned, the overreactions that were happening on socials last night, they were absolutely ridiculous. You have to at very least give the team some time to react to these games, digest what they're trying to implement against new opponents, and see how they adjust. And these games they are trying to build the identity. I know they do matter when it comes to, I would say, process over results. But right now, this is the time to be working through the kinks.
Yeah, I had probably 8 to 10 people in my timeline on Twitter say fire Doug Christie after the first preseason game. And I'm just saying, like, I don't like telling people how to fan, but my goodness, if that's where you're at mentally, you probably shouldn't be watching professional sports. Like, this is preseason. There's a lot of time before the season starts. We talked about, the season starts in 13 days, something like that, 14 days. Like, that's twice as much time as what the Kings have had to get ready for game one. Like, they've got time here to work out some of the kinks. And, like, look, the first 19 games of the season are, like, some of the most brutal basketball that they're going to run into all year. They have to figure it out, or they're going to fall way behind right off the jump, and that's going to be a problem. Let's get to this. What are some of the positives you guys took away? We'll get to, like, the fourth quarter later, but let's just focus on the first half. I think, first of all, we saw Doug Christie's 10-man rotation. Like, it could change a little bit, but I mean, the 10-man rotation was, of course, Schroeder, Levine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis starting, Malik Monk, Keon Ellis coming off the bench, Nick Clifford at the 3, followed by Drew Eubanks,
and was the first one off.
Isaac Jones. Well, he was the first one because Domas picked up a second foul.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything in that rotation that you think is odd or wrong, or were you on board with what you saw? Is that sort of, because that's kind of how I've projected this to start the season?
I mean, Doug he warned everybody, this isn't going to be necessarily what we're doing. We're still trying some things. So taking him at his word, I had no problem with it. There were some things I liked. I mean, if I had 3 players right out of the top of my head that I felt like I really liked what I saw from, was Zach LaVine, for obvious reasons, what he was able to show off from an effort standpoint defensively. I thought Keon Ellis is in midseason form. I saw him handle the ball, put in position to handle the ball a lot. Didn't always result in good things, but I felt like the effort with Keon is always there. And I really liked what I saw from Nick Clifford. I know, for his first taste of NBA action, I know he didn't shoot the ball really until super late, but being kind of that guy that connecting, making hockey assists. He had a number of assists just in the game himself, but just from a defensive standpoint, from a playmaking standpoint, rebounding standpoint, I really liked everything I saw from Nick in that game. So those were probably the 3 biggest moments collectively as a group. I mean, there's not a lot to choose from, because I thought they all looked pretty bad, and maybe as a team that hadn't played well together or played with each other before. I remember going back to earlier this week where I think might have been Zach LaVine who was talking about how he's only really played with starting units so far. They haven't really mixed up the 1s and 2s and 3s, so to speak, to get deeper into the depth chart. Maybe you got 2 starters, 3 bench guys. So they've been strict units, 5 units of players, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think that kind of was pretty obvious in this first game, and I think I would also expect that to look pretty sloppy in Portland on Friday as well.
The other guy I would point to, I know he didn't shoot great, but I thought Keegan Murray, he had talked about wanting to be more aggressive, and I was really curious to see what that's going to look like for a guy that has been a little bit more passive on some previous teams. And he came out and was very much that. 2 for 9, again, doesn't look great, but I want to say the Kings' first points was Keegan getting a board, and he took it down the entire court himself and threw it down over somebody. And I just thought that he looked really aggressive and confident in his shot. And again, 0 for 4 from 3, 2 of 9 from the field. Take that for what you will. I think they're eventually going to go in, but I thought it was good to see Keegan continue to get those reps and be more confident, willing to take those shots within the flow of the offense, because I still think he's probably the biggest X factor on this team and what his eventual growth could be here?
Yeah, I thought defensively Keegan was really good in stretches. Again, the weak side shot blocking, I'm a little leery about how
Overrated.
sustainable that is. Yeah, and again, I think a lot of that was because the Kings were just kind of lost in rotations, and he was close enough where he could fly in and knock a ball away. I was still super impressed by the shot blocking because that's who he was in college, right? He averaged 1.8 blocks per game, and I've talked about this a bunch of times, but like there were certain things that when Keegan Murray was coming into the league that were sustainable and that weren't. And, the scoring looks sustainable. The rebounding looks sustainable, but, at like a slightly lesser clip, which is exactly what we've seen from him as a pro. And then the shot blocking, I didn't think would be sustainable at all. I thought the 3-point shooting would be, but at the college level, all he did was weak side shot blocking. And at the pro level, you're not going to leave a shooter wide open in the corner and go try to block a shot in the post. Because when you do that at the pro level, the guy shoots 40% and it's worth 1.2 points per possession. Like you're just going to get torched doing that. So I thought the defensive side was good. I was a bit alarmed by the misses. I got to be honest, but the 4 missed 3-pointers. I mean, one of them barely drew iron. I was just kind of like caught off guard because he's a better shooter than that. And it almost felt like they hadn't shot in the gym at all. And I didn't make it to shoot around, but they shot in the gym at shoot around, right?
Yeah,
they did. Yeah. I mean, they just missed shots. I'm not too concerned with that. The fact that he's taking them, especially with Keegan Murray, the fact that he's looking to be aggressive that early, I think that was encouraging. And he wasn't just settling for threes, as Brenden talked about. Like he kind of took it to the hoop a little bit. But yeah, I mean, tough shooting night. I'm not really concerned with any of those guys shooting right now. I just want to see the effort. I just want to see something to give a damn. And really, you're not going to see that too often in the preseason, evidently. And I asked Doug today, like, is there going to be a true dress rehearsal type of game in these next 3 exhibition games? I've heard coaches before talk about, maybe the third, if you have 4 games or 5 games, maybe that third contest is the one you really kind of want to see the most from your core group. Doug didn't really go there and said, the whole preseason is going to be obviously evaluation and different things, but the dress rehearsal is everything that surrounds the game, shoot arounds, being professional, getting there, meetings, all that kind of stuff. Everything that surrounds the game itself.
Yeah, I want to dive back into the Nick Clifford thing too. Brennan, you brought him up there, and I got to be honest. Like the first half, he looked timid. He looked a little blocky. He looked like he was searching, which is to be expected. And then when he started the second half, and then he started to play with like the third team guys in the second half, I thought that's where he really started to shine. Like you could tell, like there was a level of calmness to him with people. He was surrounded by people that he knew because he's been working out here in Sacramento most of the summer with guys like Dylan Cardwell and Maxime Reynaud. And he just looked like he was flowing with those guys. And like the 9 assists, I thought was tremendous. But again, like what did 6 of those come in the fourth quarter? Like I need to see him do what he's doing there in the flow of the regular rotation, because that's where he's going to be, it looks like. So I was super impressed that, again, he didn't look like he was lost as much as he just didn't look super comfortable early on. And I kind of like that he was able to have that opportunity late in the game, almost like that game, 2 years ago when they left Kevin Huerter in a blowout and Kevin Huerter found a shooting stroke. And you're like, all right, that's why you leave a player in like that. I thought it was a good moment for Nick. What were your guys' kind of overall, like, what do you think of his game?
I think the versatility that he's talked about and all his teammates have talked about a bunch definitely shown through. The first half jitters or whatever it may be, it's his first time on an NBA floor. Like I think it's to be expected. He's got to work through some of those things, And like you mentioned, I think we saw him do it in real time. He played everything, it felt like, from 1 to 3 in that game. And there's even times where maybe a little bit of a 4, like switching a little bit and showing some of that versatility, but bringing the ball up the floor. You mentioned the 9 assists. Definitely look comfortable with that summer league squad, which, those guys have a lot of reps together for sure. The only team beating them is the Charlotte Hornets if Con Knipple and Ryan Kalkbrenner come back out here. But I think I just had to throw those names in. But I think Neek definitely showed that, why everybody has been excited about him. He does a little bit of everything out there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that maybe some of his best reps outside of the fourth were alongside those other starters. I think that's where you're really going to be able to see him shine when rotations normalize a little bit throughout the regular season here, because he just is willing to do whatever it takes out there and piece everything together. You also don't see him stopping the flow of the ball. If anything, he's maintaining it. So, I thought it was a good first showing for Neek, doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't, to be honest with you, James and Brendan, I didn't pick up on his nerves. I didn't think he looked, I didn't think he was making ample mistakes. I felt he looked comfortable even in the early going. I think he impacts the game in so many different ways, as Brendan just laid out. That's obviously exit from scoring. Like, thought he had a physicality to him. I thought he was he did it really well in stretches of looking around at guys that really weren't playing defense. He was not one of those guys. I thought he put his nose in there and mixed it up a bit. Certainly, yeah, he found some of that effectiveness in other areas of the game and got rolling in that fourth quarter when he wasn't playing against NBA people. But I felt like he had this is a horrible thing to compare him to, but it's eerily familiar to like Colby Jones, where, Colby has so many different, I know James's face, Colby in that early initiation of where we were looking at getting to know Colby's game a little bit, being able to impact the game, maybe not in one great elite way or anything like that, but just being a part of so many different looks, being hockey assists, being able to rebound, being able to defend, being able to move the ball. He understands spacing so well. Brendan, you nailed it with the switchability. I thought that was really impressive from him. I don't need him to shoot the basketball. You know what I mean? Like, certainly that'll come. It kind of reminded me also of that first summer league game, which I hate to compare to preseason, but the first preseason game, or the first summer league game, if you guys remember, Maxime Reynaud gets off on a heater, and Neek becomes this guy who's just setting up his teammates. He becomes a little too passive, maybe not as aggressive. I remember Dip was a little bit critical of him not being aggressive enough. And to me, he was recognizing the hot hand. They didn't really necessarily have that hot hand to the extent of what Maxime Reynaud was doing. I mean, certainly Domas and Zach were having nice scoring games, but I noticed Neek Clifford a lot in the early going throughout that game, and certainly in that fourth quarter when things were obviously in hand already. Showing that type of effort, I think, will go a long, long way. But I like what I've seen from him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you brought up Colby Jones, and that was it's something that we were discussing earlier on the Insiders, and Kyle brought up the same thing. He's like,
really,
the first half, I was like, he's looking a lot like Colby Jones, but not in a good way, in a way that the way that Colby showed up in summer league, and you're like, ooh, this kid's interesting. And then you get to when the bright lights are on, it's like, oh no, he's just kind of like running around in the drill sets like early on.
well,
And
he
then
wasn't out there just doing cardio.
no, I thought he settled in though. I did. And I think that playing him with guys that he's comfortable with made a lot of sense. And I even, like, when we were discussing this, it reminded me a little bit of, when the 49ers go up against the Rams last week, and, you're thinking, oh, well, this team's just going to get their ass kicked, right? But I think everyone in the building forgot that Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne had played together for like 3 years in New Orleans. And all of a sudden, Mac Jones was in New England. Sorry. They were like, he may have been the perfect quarterback to play in that game, because you had no other receivers. And the one receiver that you do have there's a huge connection that was kind of hiding with the backup quarterback. And so I thought that the 49ers were able to find success that way by using, something that we didn't really see happening. I think that's the same thing with Neek. When Neek got comfortable on the court, it was with a bunch of people that he is already comfortable with. And that's a good thing, because if you can get him comfortable, it might transition to him being comfortable everywhere. And I think even starting him to open the second half was a really good move. It was because Doug could have easily started Keon Ellis with Zach LaVine sitting in the second half, and that's just not what he did. He went with the young kid and gave him a little bit more like opportunity and reps with the starters. And like, look, if you're going to bring him along, you're going to have him play 15 to 18 minutes a game in the first half of the season. He has got to play with those guys. He has got to figure that out. And so I like the way that he developed throughout the game. I'd also point out, Sean, it wasn't just the first preseason game where Reynaud got crazy hot early. It was multiple preseason games. I mean, summer league games where Nick Clifford did not get going at all until the second quarter or the mid third or the early third quarter, where all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, look, he just arrived, and he's going to have to figure out a way to be productive early on in his stint. And that doesn't mean scoring, just productive. Like, be productive, because if not, he may not get that second opportunity in the second half. He may not get as long an opportunity in the second half if he's not productive early. So I get trying to settle into games and trying to get the feel of the game, but that works for a 35-minute per game starter. It does not work for a 15 to 18-minute per game guy coming off the bench trying to fit in. You got to go out there and play like right off the bat.
Yeah. I think he and the other rookies make it pretty easy to just buy into them as well, like personality wise. I think they all seem pretty introspective and are being praised by their teammates for how they're handling their rookie season. They're all leaning on the veteran players that are on this team. I think that's an undersung value of having a DeMar DeRozan on your roster, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, obviously all these guys. I think that the young guys are really leaning on them, and it's very, very early, about as early as it gets. But, I think that Scott Perry emphasized very much that personality matters to him just as much as the skill set that a player has. And I think that you're easily seeing that early on with all three of these rookies, and with Nick obviously being the highlight there. Well, maybe Dylan stole a show at the end, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that he was interesting. Of the starters, we did mention that Zach LaVine looked phenomenal. Like, Zach LaVine is such a gifted offensive player. And I actually thought he played really well defensively. I thought he had a couple of defensive stops that I was surprised by. But I thought one of the more interesting things was he didn't like acquiesce to anyone. Like, it was like, all right, it's my show. And I was excited to see that, because he is the best scorer they have on the team. Like, Zach LaVine could easily average 30 a game for a season. Like, he's that good offensively. So I thought he was really good. I think we're all a little concerned when he didn't come out and play in the second half. But again, the team said that was very specific, and that it was an issue. I mean, there was no issue with him at all. They just wanted to give a couple other guys a shot. And Zach LaVine had clearly already had his check-in game. But I'd say the other person that stood out, at least in my mind, was the Domas, like, attacking from different angles thing. I thought that it was different watching him play. Did you guys pick up on any of the nuances of him, like, starting his like attack of the basket from different angles?
Yes and no. I felt like they didn't do a ton of two-man game. I think once Malik came in the game, you saw a little bit more of the two-man game that's been effective. A lot of it was on the wing, as opposed to, well, a lot of it would start on the wing as opposed to right up, maybe from the free throw line extended. But there were moments with Schroeder where Schroeder would just catch him with a little bit lob straight onto the basket, and all he had to do was turn and move and kind of lay it up or get a second chance opportunity. I think the thing I noticed from Domas was much more ball handling. He was kind of a facilitator quite a bit on the move, as opposed to staying in a post position and let guys kind of roll off of him, dribble handoff or anything like that. So That probably stood out. But yeah, he was very effective, obviously, offensively. Thought defensively left some things to be desired, obviously, but with respect to him, there's not a lot of help coming from the power forward position. So, or even a center if they put another big out there. I'm curious if we'll see that. I kind of want to see it, but I still am one to think that this team is just continually, I mean, their best players are their undersized players, and I kind of expect them to play smaller and maybe use it to their strength.
Yeah, I think they kind of need to do that. I personally don't want to see the double big lineup. I'm not a huge fan of that, but there will be scenarios where it may make sense for sure. Minnesota, Cleveland, if you want to go Milwaukee in that. So I'm sure there will be scenarios, but yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned him being on the move a little bit more. I definitely noticed that. And I would say that also he just had more simple scenarios to finish plays rather than being the one just initiating every single time. Right. And I think Dennis played into that. Some of these other guys being aggressive as well. But just giving Domas more, quick decisions of, hey, I'm right here, I'm going to go up, or they're overreacting to that help. And obviously he's a great playmaker from there. So I thought a little bit of some differences. But nothing all too jarring quite yet, I would say. The one thing I was keen to see a little bit was the 3-point shot that he said got a little bit quicker. It did look quicker. He still lined up the laces, but I just thought that he was just lining up the laces a little bit quicker, to be honest. And the motion probably a little bit as well, went 0 for 2, but just something that I'm curious to continue to monitor throughout the year. Because, hey, if that is cash, then I might change my tune on the 2-pick lineup.
Yeah, it was flat. I think his shot was flat. That was the one thing that I noticed. I didn't mind him shooting the 3. I also think that there were more opportunities where he was able to get the ball in unique positions on the floor and able to attack before anyone else was able to get to him. So it was him going one-on-one, attacking on the move against another big, and I thought he was really good. On the offensive end.
How many threes did he take? I don't have it in front of me. Do you know?
I think 2.
2, yeah, 0 for 2.
Okay. Yeah,
both from the top of the key.
I can only think of one that stood out. So yeah.
And Drew Eubanks took one as well.
Both of them were straight away?
Yes.
Yeah. I can remember okay.
Yeah, but it did look like he was able to inline drive against guys and then use the bully, the shoulders, use the ball to get right to the rim again and again. Now, again, I don't think Toronto, first of all, Jakob Poeltl wasn't there.
Nope.
But I don't think Toronto also has Scotty Barnes is hurt. I don't think they have the guys that were playing. Number one, you didn't have to fear them defensively. And that was one thing I had a problem with. Why do you keep running a double team, or why do you keep sending help for Domas when Jonathan, what's his last name?
Mogba or Mogba?
Yeah, Mogba.
Mogba. Sorry.
Yeah, Mogba. When Jonathan Mogba is going at you in the post, Domantas Sabonis can handle him. You don't need to send help. And I thought there were too many times where the Kings sent help, what are you doing? And then left wide open 3-point shooters. That can't keep being part of who they are. A couple of things from the chat. Number one, Shane Henry. I'm just wondering, are you actually Malik Monk? Because you have quoted, you've put 5 different things in here about Malik Monk. I thought Malik was not very good, as a whole last night. But that doesn't he still looks like he's in great shape and he looks like he's ready to compete. Missed some wide open shots. Again, he's trying to figure out the group just like everyone else. And then Jim Garfinkel, what's up, Jim? So do the Kings have an identity or an MO, modus operandi? As of right now, look, it's too early for any of that, in my opinion. Yeah, they have. They're trying to work on an identity and they want to tell us what that identity is, but until they show you that identity, that's nice. They can keep talking about what their identity might be, but until it's actually in function, then I don't really think they do yet. And that's something that you have to earn. It's like a nickname. It's not something you can just state that you are, in my opinion. Is that fair?
think one of the things for sure. And I think one of the things that will help with this 94 feet, because like you mentioned, we know what they want. They want 94 feet. They want a high paced offense. But I think one of the things that also was a little bit different, they got to the line 37 times. And this is a little bit of a chaotic game. It's preseason, for sure. But that's more than they got to line any time during the regular season last year. And I think that's been an emphasis from Doug Christie this season. And it's something that, hey, when you're able to get to the line, it's a lot easier to do your 94 feet defense, because not only the tiring style of play, you get a little second of rest, but you get to fully reset your defense there. So I thought the getting to the line stood out a little bit too, even if part of that, a good bit of that had to do with it just being a chaotic preseason game.
Preseason basketball officials.
Yeah.
They blow the whistle a lot.
Well, I think a good thing too is, like, you bring up the free throw shooting. It wasn't one person getting to the line. I mean, Domas took 6 free throws. Isaac Jones did not take a free throw. Daquan Plowden didn't take a free throw, and Isaiah Stevens didn't take a free throw. Everyone else took a free throw. I mean, I don't think that I've seen, like, 29 of the free throws came from your rotational players. That's pretty good. But, the fact that so many different players went to the line, I think is more part of it being preseason. I do like, I like the fact that they're trying to get to the line. I also like that Doug brought up that, he wants to see Keegan get to the line more, which he got to the line 3 times, and he's like, I'd like that closer to 6. For those who don't know, Keegan Murray averaged like 1 free throw attempt per game last season. So if you're going to turn him into a free throw merchant, that's fine by me. I mean, that's the way he gets up to 18, 19 points a game, like, super quick. You give him a couple additional 3-point shots and a couple additional free throws, and there he is. He'll be at 18 points per game. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's how you get there. It's not that difficult.
I should look it up. I wonder what his career high is for free throw attempts.
Even in the game, back to you. Yeah, even in the game where he scored 47, I don't think he had a bunch of free throw attempts.
Yeah, I can't recall.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, I think that there are some positives that we can take away. The shooting was not good at all by Keegan Murray, but I think the fact that he was shooting, and the fact that he played 23 minutes and put up 9 shots. Okay, I need 15. I need 15 every game, and that's gonna be something that he's got to get to.
Do we have guesses for his highest free throw game? He did it multiple times.
I'm gonna say it's not double digits.
8.
That's all I can. So
it is 8. It is 8.
Wow. Oh, was it?
He reached that number last year and in his second season.
Wow, but only a couple of times. Yeah. And I'm gonna, like, there's a comment here that I'm gonna post up. You can't change habits with old men. It starts with a new regime and new players. NBA is a young man sport. This team is too old in their starting lineup. I don't necessarily disagree with this statement. Like, if you want to play a specific style, this 94 feet, and you want to be this aggressive defensive team and punch people in the face, it's fine to do that in summer league, and it's fine to do that with your preseason, with the final, half of a preseason game. But if you don't have players that play that style, it's not easy to do. And I do think, that's always been the question. Like, it's not just that you don't have those players. It's the players that you do have that play that style. Will Doug Christie bench veteran all-star, former all-stars, or future Hall of Fame players for players who do play that style? And that's going to be the true test.
He just singles out DeMar DeRozan.
No, like Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, former All-Star. Like, will those guys play defense in the way that they have to? I'll even say former almost 6 man of the year. Like, will Malik Monk play the style of defense that Doug is asking for? If not, Devin Carter will. Keon Ellis will.
And I laugh at that, James, but you're right, because it's part of my curiosity, which is Doug has said all the right things, but actions are obviously bigger than words. And so are you capable of doing that, knowing that your job is predicated upon results, right? Like, you don't have the largest leash in the world to go out there and develop this team. It's not like you have a team of young guys. Into Jaguar 89's comment about being a young man's sport and how these guys have their habits and they're older men. He's not wrong. And I do agree. Will the zebra change their stripes? These guys are known playing a certain style of basketball. It's not like you have a collection of young guys where you're trying to develop a bunch of them. Now, certainly you've got younger players on this team. It's a mixture of young and old, but your young players aren't to the talent level that your older players are. And to have success if they're going to have success, they're going to be relying on these older players to not only do what they do, but to do some things that are a little bit out of character. And that, I think, will be the common theme and question mark that surrounds this team for the entire season, which is, can this team be something different than what they've been?
Yeah, Sean,
go ahead.
To that point, I want to say this too. The problem is that Doug Christie keeps telling us what he wants, and what he wants is who he was as a player.
Yeah.
The problem is that he doesn't get to play. And so what he has to do is he needs to think back sometimes to the fact that what he wants as a player and what he did as a player, Mike Bibby did not do. He didn't. And for that matter, Chris Webber did not do those things either. And very seldom did Peja Stojakovic do those things that Doug Christie did. And so you got to figure out how to make a team do some of what you did and who you are, but also understand that, like, some of the time that's not who they are as players. And asking that, that's why you need to have your stars and you need to have role players who are really good and do a lot of those other things. And then you hope that your stars will slowly pick up and do more and more of what they have to do to win games. But that's at the end of the day what Doug is going to fight in his head mentally, is who he was as a basketball player by like comparing it to who he has as basketball players on his team.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I worry a little bit that this style of play isn't exactly conducive to the roster that they have, and that's not reactionary to this preseason game. I feel like we've been saying that a little bit, and so curious to see how that plays out. Yeah, a good little while here, and clear. I mean, I agree they need to play better defense, but I really think it's more of a personnel thing. And in the meantime, you're going to do what you can to be the best version of yourself with what you're dealing with, and to what people are saying of, hey, the young guys look great, like they did also just get to play this style and implement this in summer league. And it's a lot easier to get a young guy that's really early in the league to buy into the system. It's the only thing that they know, and they're trying to prove everything they can out there. And that's not to say that these other starters are not bought in. I think everything that they've said that they are for sure, but I'm curious to see how it will continue to play out, because if that personnel proves to not be conducive to this 94 feet thing, how do you pivot? And does that mean stylistically, or does that mean the roster? And I think that's just going to be something that at least I'll be monitoring throughout the course of the year.
Yeah. And like Jim Garfinkel, you bring up a point here. Am I saying that they might be better to play the youngsters and develop and basically tank? No, because they still have to win games. This is like, what you have to do is you have to, at some point, you're going to have to play the young guys. And I don't think it's that far off. Like, and watching some of the young guys play, like, they've got skills. They do. They have a skill. Like, we'll just dive into this a little bit. Like, I was super impressed with Dylan Cardwell. Like, Dylan Cardwell is probably a year and a half, 2 years away from playing if he ever makes it in the league. But I think he's got a skill set, and like, he's tough. He's mean. He's a rim runner. He dives on the floor. He gets rebounds. He swings at shots that are put up in the air. Like, he plays with an edge, and the Kings don't have that. And it's great that they have a player who can do that. The problem is they don't have a player who can do that, who can step on the court and play major minutes right away. And that's going to be the challenge. How fast can you get a guy like Dylan Cardwell, or how fast can you get a guy like Maxime Reynaud up to speed where you feel comfortable enough to play them over some of the veteran players? And I think, like, in all honesty, I watched Drew Eubanks go out there, and I was super impressed by Drew Eubanks. He hustled. He got on the floor. He had 3 blocks. He took a 3-point shot. He didn't do anything stupid or anything wrong. And, like, he's a highly competent 12 to 13 minute per game backup center in the NBA. And he'll hold down that position until Maxime Reynaud or Dylan Cardwell is ready to take that job. And those guys, it's going to be on them to prove that they're ready to take the next step and that they can earn the trust of a coaching staff that is still trying to, like build something. And so I'm intrigued by what I saw from those two. And I was also intrigued by Doug Christie running out Cardwell and Reynaud together. I thought that was intriguing.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that important to keep in mind, like, even though these guys are older rookies, I don't think the expectation, look at where they were drafted, or in Dylan's case, not drafted. Like, I don't think anybody was expecting them to come in and be impactful in year one. This is why you have a Drew Eubanks in the meantime, and you know what he provides you on a night-to-night basis. You have, like, if Isaac Jones is still in the cards for that backup 5 spot, you have other optionality there that I kind of view those rookie guys as, hey, if they do come along and end up deserving it, then great. They kind of force your hand, and that's the best case scenario here. But also, it's going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, I think you see the early things with Dylan, and he's an easy guy to root for, big energy guy, wears it on his sleeve. I think the team can use that for sure. But that's going to take some time. Like, offensively, he's catching lobs, and I don't really know what else. And teams can definitely take that away, So while, hey, switchability looks good, I love it. And the lob was sick, by the way. He said today it was probably the best dunk of his career. It was great.
But not the lob, though, the dunk, right?
The dunk.
Was it?
Yes,
you're right. That one wasn't a lob. Yes. Yeah. And so there's interesting things there, but it's going to take some time with those guys for sure. And we're just going to have to, in my mind, see how it plays out and they develop in Stockton, I would guess.
Yeah. And I'm curious with Cardwell. I agree with you, James, in terms of the edge that he brings. I think he's highly intelligent. I think the guy runs like a gazelle. I mean, he's a specimen, an absolute physical specimen. What can he add, because he's not skilled? Hopefully he can get maybe a touch around the rim. Hopefully he can develop some sort of, I don't know if jumper is the right thing, but you can't be a liability at the free throw line. But to me, more than anything, if he can just be defensively, take a big step defensively to where he's defending without fouling and he's physical without fouling, and he can, learn all of those things and become a great screener. And I think he'll have he'll have at least some years in this league. He's just so far off, and it's, again, that fourth quarter, I think he's an energy guy. I think he can provide a lot of things to a team. It's just not at the NBA level yet. And to Brendan's point, I think we'll be seeing a lot of it at Stockton, but you can certainly see if he already has that baseline and he can just add something like that to his game to where he's not a liability, that'll go so far. Because the hockey goon doesn't really exist in the NBA anymore. It did at one time. It absolutely did. And James, when you and I grew up watching hockey goons succeed and get paid in this league, they don't really exist anymore. So he has to be able to add more to his game. But I love talking to him. It was fun talking to him today about, I know he talks about coming from the SEC and really kind of wearing that as a badge of honor, but being a player that was so young, who all thought that he'd have to be a scorer, and really talking about his coaching at Auburn under Bruce Pearl, really understanding and really kind of grasping onto a role that he became proud of as this enforcer. Because you look at college basketball, there's not a lot of dudes like that. There's more than there is in the NBA, but dudes like that who can do that oftentimes lead to success in college. In the NBA, it's not so much that way for some reason, just the way the game is played, but he'll have to add more to his game for sure.
I forgot about the free throws. So you mentioned it. Those were really, really gross.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific. I'd rather have Chris Dudley out there shooting free throws, if anyone's seen that for him.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's like a Reggie Evans type. He's a bigger player, but like a Reggie Evans type. And again, a guy who struggled the free throw line. But who
Reggie Evans could rebound, bro. He could go get that ball,
Yeah. And I think Cardwell is going to be able to do that as well. I think he'll be able to get rebounds and do all that. I do think that there are players like him, just maybe not 100% the same. Again, the rim running, guys that Dallas has. Dallas is running Gafford and Lively out there. Maybe they've got a little bit more offensive game, but that's the type of player you're hoping he develops into. And like you talked about how smart he is on the court and off the court too. Is very, very smart young guy.
Yep.
I thought Maxime Reynaud coming to the podium and like talk about just analyzing a game, like just like when he's done, he can go play. He can go sit right in a booth and start talking about the game of basketball. Just absolutely so intelligent. And like they're tall guys who play basketball and basketball players who happen to be tall. I think they're basketball players who go to Stanford, and then there's Stanford players who just happen to play basketball. And Reynaud feels more like a Stanford kid who plays basketball. Like he's so smart, and the way he started breaking down like him and Cardwell playing together, like, all right, this is fun because I do think they're going to play a lot together at the G League level. I think they're going to be really good together, and I also think, I initially thought that Reynaud would get to the big leagues like way faster than Cardwell. Maybe not though, because the Kings don't have a rim runner. And like, how many times do we have to say that Malik Monk desperately needs that type of player? I don't know if Cardwell can hold up, but like, look, there are a ton of teams around the league that have players like this that do nothing but dunk and who play the dunker spot. And then they're vicious on screens and they clear space for their teammates. And on the defensive end, they're great. As a rebounder, they're great. There are players all over the league that do that. It's just, can you get Cardwell up to NBA speed? And that's going to be a question. It's going to be a question for the coaches at the G League level. So, yeah, interesting stuff. What else do we got? Shane Henry, you literally have every single thing that you put in the chat says Malik. Like, we get it.
He's a fan.
We get it. We get it. Yeah. I just think that there are other people that you might be looking at as well. Malik is super important to this team.
Are we surprised of anybody that didn't play? Who kind of like, for instance, like Dario Saric, for example? Obviously, Dexter Dennis was waived. TD didn't play. Doug McDermott didn't play. Like, for example, I'm only asking in terms of now. Doug said he was, looking at not to take the 10-man rotation, anything to heart, but like, were you anticipating seeing any of those players?
I thought that Dario would play a little bit. I mean, we've talked about it, and I'm not exactly a big believer in what Dario Saric can do at this stage in his career, but I thought we might see it a little bit. And again, at media day, he's like, I don't know why Denver signed me if they're not going to play me. And then he doesn't play in the first preseason game after getting traded for. And even though obviously that was more about the JV aspect of all that, but yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the most optimistic on what he can bring, but I thought we would maybe see it a little bit there and none of it at all. But also, once you reach that fourth quarter, it's probably disrespectful at that point to just like roll him out with that final unit, right?
I was kind of surprised that Keon was still out there in some of that final fourth quarter mix of players, but I guess who would we have rather seen there? Maybe Terrence Davis. I don't know.
Yeah, like I kind of get it's like a foregone conclusion that Terrence Davis isn't going to make the team, which is kind of a bummer because I like TD. I think there's a good chance he's going to be in Stockton, although I don't know that they have his G League rights. I haven't looked that up to see if he's actually if they acquired them last season. I'm not sure that they did, but he's a guy that can bring energy and do some things out on the court. The Doug McDermott thing is interesting because, to be honest, I don't think the Kings are going to concern themselves with Doug playing like a single minute in preseason, really, because he's right there he's playing the same position as Nate Clifford. Like if DeMar DeRozan sits out a preseason game, sure, Doug McDermott would play. But outside of that, I think Nate Clifford's going to you need him to play minutes. You need to bring him along as quickly as possible. And there is value in playing preseason games for a guy who's, about to enter the league for the first time. So I definitely feel like the guys that played are going to be the guys that play. I don't know that there's anything like, again, McDermott, who he is. If you need him in game 3 because you can't hit a 3-point shot, he's going to play. And if not, he's not going to play. And I don't know the Saric is going to play. It is too late to stretch provision Saric. I think I discussed that last week, but the Kings have passed the deadline to waive and stretch provision him. So if they're going to do something with him, like during this season, like trade him or whatever,
trade.
You're beyond the deadline. You can now aggregate him with another player. There was like a 90-day window where you couldn't trade him with another player, and now you can. Anyway, I think that this is it's an interesting collection of players, and that's what it is so far. Until they figure out how to be a team, we're not going to really see who they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or until they play like 20 games. I mean, obviously, this is the nature of the pod we're doing right now, and they're one game because we only have this game to analyze. But
it's funny you say that, Brendan, because I was literally going to say I didn't anticipate breaking down the preseason opener as much as we did today. I thought there was going to be maybe more topics of just the team from a whole standpoint, maybe what you've seen in obviously training camp and maybe what could be. I didn't think we'd have this big of a deep dive to the preseason, but I get it. It's the only thing that we've got a full game of film to watch. And boy, I hope nobody went back and watched that, because just what an exercise in stupidity that would have been.
I know Kenny Caraway got home late and had to watch the game back so he could talk about it today, but that's the only reason you should watch that one back.
Sean's just taking a shot at me because I literally said I was going to do that today, but it's fine.
Did you go back and watch it?
It was so hard to find it, actually. I had to download the NBC Sports app. I guess shout out to NBC, not an ad here. I don't know. Yeah, I figured it out. So we are going to. I'm just trying to look at the 94 feet defense. That's all I'm trying to look at. I'm not watching the whole thing.
And I would just continue like give them an opportunity to figure out who they are. Like, this team could be really bad. They could also surprise everybody and be much better. Like, I know ESPN came out with a piece today. You know, they're projected to win 36.5 games at this point from like ESPN's gambling sites. But they have the Kings winning 43.5 per their algorithm. I don't know.
I take the under. Same. Well, because when you said 36, I was thinking to myself, well, I'd probably take the over there.
Same.
Maybe.
But I'm looking at this team as a 42. I think I said the other day on the radio, it was like, if you have to take a half, maybe it's 42.5, and then maybe there's a decision to be made. I'd probably take the under. But I also, the tough part in doing that is, and I've been saying this a lot, and I honestly believe it. Like, I just don't think this team is going to be. I mean, really, no team is the same, by the end of the year that it was when they start the season. But I think from a core standpoint, maybe a starting standpoint, whatever, some of these guys they rely on the most, I think this team will look different here in a few months. I think they're going to be still really active on the trade market. So, bearing that in mind and keeping that little caveat, like, that could be a trade that makes them better in the now. I would probably bet that it's more for the future, but a lot can happen. I mean, we talk about all the time on this podcast. Landscape changes a lot. The only thing that doesn't seem to change a lot is the fact that the West is still an MFer. I mean, my goodness, I just don't see how this Western Conference. I think, Brendan, I think I saw your tweet about the tiers. We were actually talking about it before you tweeted it. I'm kind of right there with you, but really, outside of 4 or 5 teams, this thing could, it could go anywhere which way right now.
I think there's a huge grouping of teams. There's a huge group of teams that are in the lower tier. Like again, if there's a tier system here, the number 1 tier is one team by themselves, and that's Oklahoma City. But then the second tier down, like, it's like 4 or 5 teams, and then the next tier, like, I don't know, like 6 through 10, 11, it's like a coin flip. Like, I don't know who's going to be there. Like, Memphis is already dealing with John Morant injury to go with Zach Edey won't play for a month or two, and Brandon Clark had an abridgment surgery on his knee. Like, he's going to be out for a while.
Something. He's always got something.
Yeah, which is too bad, because I really like watching him play. He's a like force player. I like the way his style of play. But like,
can you guys see the Pelicans being any good or competitive? Like, they're a huge question mark.
To me, like them and Portland are ones where I'm like, I don't really know what to do with. Now, we're not talking like top end, but I mean, Portland was, I believe it was 4th in defensive rating post All-Star break last year. Like, I do think they at least have that to rely on. I don't know what the offense looks like. In New Orleans, it's, are you going to buy the Zion, Jordan Poole, whatever else they have going on? Like, there is talent there, right? I could even, I'll go through my tiers real quick if you guys don't mind. Tell me where you disagree, right? Like you, James, I said OKC by themselves. Like, people have been saying they could win 70 games. I honestly don't think it's crazy. They won 68 last year. They missed a bunch of games with Chet and Caruso. They're going to be really, really freaking good. Tier 2, I went Denver, Minnesota. I think teams that have proven it, been to Western Conference Finals the last couple of years. Denver had the best battle against OKC last year, I would say, outside of the finals. Took them to 7 games. Minnesota's been there a couple years in a row in the Western Conference Finals.
I don't buy Minnesota. I don't, especially with them losing depth, and their offense was predicated on that depth. But that's just me.
So when you say you don't buy them in that tier, or
I don't buy them in that tier. No, I buy them as a playoff team, but I'm looking at them more like 5 through 8. Okay. That's just me.
I think that's fair. I mean, I kind of group Minnesota in there because I mainly think they have proven it the last couple of years, and I was a little more skeptical, but they've managed to pull it off. Yeah, and Ant could jump into MVP conversation, to be honest, if he really had to jump. Tier 3, I went Golden State, Houston, LA, and the Clippers, both LA teams in there. I think that those teams I feel confident are going to be good and maybe could sneak into contention level in the Western Conference. And that's 7 teams right there that I feel pretty confident are above the rest. Maybe San Antonio is the top of that next tier that I have. And I think that's the one where, talking to people, there's some variance on how good they think they could be. I worry about the shooting and lack of guard or wing depth on that team a little bit. But after that, I've San Antonio, Dallas, Sacramento, Memphis. Like, is that a grouping that the Kings belong in?
Yeah,
probably
they do. And I'd also make a little subcategory to that. Like, the group that you had above there with the Clippers and Lakers, both those teams I don't feel great about both those teams. And I know that sounds crazy with what the Lakers have done, and obviously the additions the Clippers have done. It seems like every year the Clippers just, find a way to, like, I'm tired. Like, I always believe in them.
2K team.
How are they not better? Yeah. How are they not better?
The Clippers are a 2K team.
Maybe this is the year where I fall off and all of a sudden they flourish, because 2 years ago, I thought they were headed for a championship.
Same.
Boy, how different do I feel now? I don't feel great about them. It's not that I don't believe in them. It's just, I don't think that they're a contending team. And I have a huge question mark there. And now I had that with the Lakers, and now you had the LeBron. Look, I know it's sciatica. It's not real. Yeah, I mean, it's not the most like damning situation in terms of like, but what do they look like without LeBron James? And we're going to see it. It's probably going to affect first couple weeks of their season. First at least 8-9 games. He won't be playing here in Sacramento that first game. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what that team looks like in general, but especially with Luka being in phenomenal peak conditioning shape, coming off of Eurobasket, all that stuff. I'd like to see what that looks like, but I have a question mark surrounding them as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep saying this. I don't get why everyone believes Golden State is going to be this powerhouse. Like, even the ESPN thing, like they're projected to win, I think it was like 44.5, and they have them, their algorithm has them winning like 56.5. And I'm like, is it just me, or is like 3 of their players over 35 plus?
It's just that, like, I think that whole tier is like, I don't know how regular season's going to go, but you do not want to see them in the playoffs. Like, it is 20. They went 22-5, I believe the number is, when Steph and Jimmy played together last year. They have an identity, no questions asked. And I think Al Horford fits well into that. Like, again, we'll see how much that means in the regular season. I do think the Kuminga thing's interesting. How much can you rely on Podziemski's ball handling? Regular season, we'll see where they stack up, but I still think that's a team you do not want to mess with in the playoffs. Like,
I also wonder
that's
too.
the team that won 48 last year. And did they do anything in this offseason that would make you think that they're going to win more than 48?
Well,
I mean,
look
if Steph doesn't get hurt.
Look at the bulk of those games after they got Jimmy. I mean, they went on a tear.
No, I get it.
They were really good after that.
They got a really nice bounce from Jimmy showing up, but I don't know. You know, again, Draymond Green will be 36 in March. Al Horford is, my goodness, Al Horford will turn 40 in June. He's 39. You've got, you know, Seth Curry was born in 1990, which means he's 35, and he was 35 in August. Gary Payton was born in 92. He's 33 years old in December. Like, it's not a team that is like, they're one injury away from Steph, who, you know, again is like with 37 years old. Like, they're one injury away from him from being like a team that's got so many question marks. It's crazy. So I don't know. I'm not I think that they're like, again, I said this earlier. I think that there's a higher likelihood that, like, if we put their win total at 46 and ESPN has this thing that says 56, I would say there's a higher likelihood they drop to 36 and jump to 56. And that's not being a hater. That's just me looking at their team and saying, okay, first of all, you weren't a 56 win team last year, and I don't see the improvements. Like, I'm not giving them a bump for a 39-year-old Al Horford when they lost, you know, Kevon Looney. I just don't think that there's that much difference there. I don't know.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of it for me is that I just think if Steph doesn't go down, last year's playoffs could look way different. And yeah, they have an identity, the definition of having an identity. And I think there is some value in that for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's value in it. I agree, but that that identity goes away if Steph is missing 25 games.
The chat is really an amazing place to get lost in sometimes. I scrolled far back. Shane's been at this for a while. Shane, I hope Malik Monk buys you dinner some night. You are a ride or die. I get it.
He probably won't, though, because Shane's clearly got a tattoo of Malik somewhere, and that could freak somebody out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think Derek J here in the chat, unpopular opinion, I want to see the Kings get rid of DeMar and Monk. I think you're doing that just to incite Shane.
Yeah, Derek, Shane's going to come over the table after on you here in a minute.
It's called rage baiting, gentlemen. That's what the term the kids use.
Yeah.
I get accused of that sometimes.
I
no.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I think being an instigator is not rage bait. So I'm an instigator.
Shit stir, call it what you want, Sean.
I do that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we do. Let's hit this. Let's get to the business of basketball.
It's a little John Cena-ish, actually.
Oh.
I just realized that. No?
Okay. You said that so quickly after your little sound effect.
I think
it was almost like your comment was part of your sound effect.
We're down to like 10 or 11 days, and I love doing this to you because Sean always freaks out when I do this. Does Keegan Murray get his extension or no? 10 days, 11 days, something like that?
Yeah, I say yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I will. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll say yes. No, I'm just nothing I've seen. Nothing. I mean, even I know like nothing has made me between now and this off season. I haven't gone off of anything. I haven't heard any intel that would make me think otherwise. I think it's all kind of lined up in the right direction, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, I think as long as the number's not in the 30s that we're talking about here, and that's what his agent is pushing for, then I think something should get done because the Kings desperately need this guy, in my mind. They don't have much internal upside on their roster, and they also just don't have another real playable 4 in my mind. And whatever, if you want to argue he's a 3, he's playing the 4 right now, and they very much need him to do that. So I would say yes as well.
Okay. Do we have a dollar figure?
22 to 27 annually, somewhere in that range.
Pretty wide range. Okay.
We can go shorten it to 25 to 27.
I'm going to say it's been really quiet, but it's starting to hear a little bit of noise about like an annual average salary around 25.
I think it's going to be up. But
up?
That's more me speculating than knowing anything or hearing anything. I think it's going to be north
of 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not.
Yeah, I heard that figure today that might be the range that at least the team is pushing for. So either a 4-year 100 or a 5 like 125, something like that. So, but like nothing's done, and like that's one of those sources, and you're hoping that they might know something. But yeah, I think there's also still a lot of people waiting around to see what's going to happen with Keegan before some of the other players get their deals done. So we'll do some more chasing on that, and because I think we're getting down to the wire here with Keegan. So cool. All right, let's get to final thoughts. What do we got for final thoughts? Brenden, what do you got?
Just to take a breath, I don't think this team is going to be very good, to be honest, but the amount of people that are freaking out, just take a breath, see how it goes, let it play out a little bit. I'm typically like give me 20 games before we can really, maybe not jump to conclusions is the right wording, but at least a decent sample size before we say, hey, this team, this identity does not work with this group. Like they need a little bit of time to be able to implement this. And that is not the preseason, right? It works towards that, but even some games into the regular season, there's going to be a little bit of a growing pain with this probably. And that's okay. That's just the natural process of Zach was on the team last year, but they are still figuring out the best way to optimize him. Doug, same situation. Like there's going to be an adjustment period. And I think freaking out about that is not just, fan how you want, but just my 2 cents, not exactly necessary.
Yep. Sean, what do you got?
Look at the young fella preaching patience. I would say, look, yes, fan how you want, but I would also just be realistic with your view of what this season is. And to me, it's one of those placeholder type of seasons because there's a lot of figuring out. There's a lot of evaluation that's going to go on. I think there's moments that you might be pleasantly surprised. I think keep your expectations low. Temper the expectations because you might be pleasantly surprised. I am one of those people that are hoping for something that makes them a little bit more relevant than they are now from a selfish journalistic standpoint. But nothing. You can't. The up and down roller coaster of one game to the next is it's a tough place to live if you have real high expectations for your team. And to answer Jim Garfinkel's question in the chat, Aftershock talked about in the very beginning of the podcast, but had a great time. Blink 182 was great, and I thank James Ham for that. I went to 3 of the 4 nights, by the way. Brenden, how many did you go to?
Blink 182 was great, man. Anybody that heard the beginning of the show, I had a great time out there. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. Brenden is lying his ass off. He didn't go. He could have gone, chose not to.
Yeah, Sean was going to be there. That's not my crowd.
Yeah. Oh, aren't you the one inviting me out for Saturday before this massive group text chat went out?
Damn, and you were talking shit about it, so whatever.
Damn group text, ridiculous.
We started the podcast saying how many is too many for a group chat, and I didn't really give an answer. I'd say 5. That's the cutoff. No more than 5.
Yeah, I'm just big time anti group text person. Like just take me out of the group text. I'm always that way. So no, I'm good. Just take me out.
Does that mean you will not be in attendance for whatever is happening on Saturday?
I might try to swing this. I don't know.
What?
There's a possibility.
What?
There's a possibility.
Oh, such a liar. He is such a liar.
That's like me saying,
yeah, James, I might be able to come up to Nevada and visit your house.
I don't live in Nevada. I live in Nevada County, but on the furthest, lowest point of Nevada County, barely. I'm almost in Placer County. It does snow here. I'm at like 1,700 feet of elevation, Sean. You're ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of like have Brendan's back here. Like have some perspective here. This team's been together 7 days, and they did not look good in their preseason opener, but okay. That like there have been plenty of teams that go 4-0 in preseason and finish with 20 wins, like 25 wins. Like, like I wouldn't put too much stock in what we just saw. They're working to get better, and they've got an idea, and they're trying to build an identity. And if those things work, this actually might be a season that I think can surprise some people. Like, there's no reason for this team to be horrible this year. They've got plenty of star level players. They've got plenty of, young guys that are trying to figure it out, but also role players. I'm more inclined to think that this season's going to be a little bit better than that 36.5 wins that we've heard. So as sort of like the betting line. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for joining us. It's a live show. We never plan these things. We try, but like getting the three of us together and an exact time is nearly impossible. But thanks for tuning in. We've been here for an hour and a half. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up before you leave. Let me see if I can make the screen do it.
You did it earlier. I saw it came up.
I did do it earlier.
Not so successful now. You only get one. You get one per session. You're done.
I guess. I don't. There's also like if you do, I think the peace sign, it's supposed to do like balloons or something.
What happens when you do a middle finger?
Do we have a heart?
There's Brendan trying to do things. All right. The baby daddy, we're still working on the happy hour. It's been a long off season. It's been a long off season.
Wait, can I ask Sean one last question? Sean, What was the podcast snack today?
Oh, what was it?
You just popped like one random little piece of popcorn.
No, because it was two things. Oh, I had one of those nerd gummy things. I had a little yeah. That was two of those were left over, but I also
edibles. Sean's having edibles before coming on the pod.
Yeah. No, I tried those. Those are pretty good. I'm not a big, candy guy, but I will say those are pretty tasty. But it was weird because the flavors were all over the place. I started off with a carrot. So if you like those little mini carrots in the bags that come in, yeah.
What the fuck is on your desk?
Carrots. This is not a desk. This is like a platform. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to know what's happening here. I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening.
I was giving a
all right.
Yeah, never mind.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Again, jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a subscriber, all that stuff. We'll be back next week. We'll have at least one game, maybe two to talk about before we reconvene.
Hopefully.
Thanks for tuning in. So for KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. James Ham, Kings Saturday for ESPN 1320 Kings Beat. See you soon.